But we heard about those two songs.
We did?
I think we spoke about them. Did we not talk about them?
I don't think so. No.
Or maybe not on the podcast. Yeah, there were two songs. They weren't out for that long.
Okay.
And somebody had, you know what happened? So somebody had put them out, and they were out for a few days.
Oh.
And then they weren't out because I think, somebody who had the right to say they shouldn't be out said they shouldn't be out. And actually, there was supposed to be like some kind of third unreleased song.
Oh, really?
But then there was nothing. And I think the person who put out the first, and this is just my opinion.
This all went on the links, all right?
I think so.
Yeah,
I think this was on the links. I
Yeah.
think the guy had put the two songs out on the links, and then, not directly on the links. Well, I think he had put a link on the links or something,
Yeah.
And then
I remember you telling me about this and saying this song is coming, and then it never came or something.
Right, and then what happened was the links had to take the links down because they were contacted by the copyright holder, apparently. And so the links doesn't mess around with stuff like that.
No, yeah.
So they, because, they like having the website up and they don't want to cause any trouble with the official Van Halen camp.
Right.
So they took it down. And then, the guy said there was going to be another song that was unreleased, I think from like the 5150 album. And it wasn't the one that was out already.
I Want Some Action.
Right. It was something else. But then it never came out, and I think it was because the guy, he had his other links taken down, so I don't think it would have been received kindly.
Not for nothing, but you lead with the unreleased track.
Yeah, because stuff like this, you never know what's going to happen.
I know, but you know what? Everybody's so
you know
afraid.
What? But then, people are always saying, "Hey, I got this."
Yeah.
And you never hear anything.
Yeah, I know. It's all bullshit. Letter number 22 comes from some guy on the links. Says, thank you for the work you guys do. This is my favorite podcast. I love the fact that it's long. Thanks, guys. And I don't even know his name. I
think that was from VH Trading, actually.
Oh, is it VH Trading? I'm
sorry. I think so, yes.
Okay,
yes.
Well, we don't know his name, but thank you very much, sir. I appreciate it. Letter number 23 comes from Rob Hutchinson. And what does Rob say? He says, guys, following up on a letter on the last podcast about the Many Faces of Van Halen compilation, the label is Music Brokers from Buenos Aires in Argentina. They release lots of these comps by most major rock artists, and I think licensing this sort of stuff is much easier down here, and they appear to have distribution in most parts of the world and sell in pretty good numbers. Love the last pod, and while I'm generally a Sammy-free zone, I have to say your review of his fine book was a killer 4 hours. Keep up the great work, boys. Rob Hutchinson. Okay, Rob. Well, those comps are really shady business, aren't they, Dave?
Yes.
They really are.
Yes.
It's unbelievable. It's almost like they're coming out of some bat cave south of the border. I don't know how all this stuff really works, but it's weird, and I guess that's part of rock and roll. But what can I tell you? That's the deal. So, the last letter, Dave's favorite part of the night. Dave waits for this forever, and now he's excited because it's the last letter of the night. He's got his nightcap on, he's taken his NyQuil, and he's literally half eyes closed. But I'm going to wake him up with this letter from Daniel Keir, and he says, Gents, long-time listener from the UK, loving the show. Question, I know money is not everything, but would Michael Anthony be better off financially if he would have refused to give up his royalties in 1984 and left the band at that point? What did he give up against what he made in the years after that point? The day I was due to leave the UK to fly to Las Vegas to catch David Lee Roth at the House of Blues on March 18th, it got closed due to the flights closing down because of the virus. Daniel Keir. Poor guy.
So
well, Dan, let me tell you that. I tell you this. No way, Dan. No way. Michael Anthony made way more money from 1985 to 1998. Far outweighs the shares that he would have gotten from 1984 because he got not only that, but so much work from Sammy and Chickenfoot and everything. Van Halen made more money with Sam than they made with Dave. So thanks to Ed Loeffler, by the way, and they cashed in on the band's name and legacy at that point. So definitely. No, he definitely made out better, and his legacy was solidified, and he made more connections and more people. Mike is doing well. Apparently, according to CelebrityWorth.com, he's worth something like $55 million. So he's a nice guy. He's in a good marriage. He's got kids and grandchildren, and he's wealthy, and he's happy, and he's good. So you don't have to worry about him.
It was still a BS move, though.
Hey, look, no one says it better than Noel. He says it right out. It was absolute fucking torture and mean. That's all right. Mike still wins because I think he's the happiest out of all of them, to be honest. So I think he's the happiest and the healthiest and the most well-adjusted. And really, is he hurting? He's doing well. He's fine.
Right. He's doing just fine.
He's doing just fine. And you know what? He doesn't have all that pressure, and he has a nice job, man. Let me tell you something. He working in the circle, he's having a blast. He's probably had more fun with Sammy than he's ever had in Van Halen. I mean, Sammy treats him like
right,
Class A all the way, you know, so I think he's just fine, and we don't have to worry about Mike. And that wraps up the mailbag segment. And we are on to our interview with the Atomic Punks. Brian Geller, lead singer, Lance Turner, guitarist. These two guys make up half of the biggest, most well-known Van Halen tribute band on the planet, the Atomic Punks. One of the original tribute bands in the tribute scene before it was fashionable to be a tribute band. If you haven't heard them before, go check them out. They just did a concert in the mid-August. It's right on our website page on Facebook, and you could also check it out on Van Halen News Desk and also on the band's Facebook page. Incredible, incredible show. What a performance. And these guys talk all about being in the Atomic Punks and capturing Eddie and Dave's sound and all that they go through to recreate Van Halen. And that is all coming up next. Take a listen.
When the Van Halen image began taking shape, I started spending more time in bed, actually. As you can see, Van Halen is not terribly image conscious. We just sort of let it all be, you know. We're not really poets. We're not really philosophers. We just sort of go about our merry way, and the music is a soundtrack for that.
Author Greg Renoff is back with a new book, Ted Templeman, A Platinum Producer's Life and Music. The new biography of the record producer Ted Templeman, who went on to produce Van Halen, the Doobie Brothers, Van Morrison, Aerosmith, Sammy Hagar, and more. The book, which runs $19.95, and it's currently available at Amazon.com. From the man who brought you Van Halen Rising comes Ted Templeman, A Platinum Producer's Life and Music, written by Templeman as told to Greg Renoff. Available for only $19.95 at Amazon.com. Order it today.
Hey, this is photographer Mark Weiss. You're listening to Dave and Dave Unchained.
Check out the new podcast, The Rock Quarry, your place to hear in-depth interviews with some of rock's most colorful characters, with your host, entertainment journalist David J. Criblay. The Rock Quarry is available for free on Spreaker and iTunes. You can check us out on Facebook at The Rock Quarry Podcast, on Twitter at Rock Quarry Pod, on Instagram at The Rock Quarry Podcast, or email us at therockquarrypodcast@gmail.com.
From very early on, that it was kind of ingrained on us that if you're doing something that you like, then that is of the utmost importance. Because in our family, there were two opposites. There was my dad, the musician, the guy, the happy-go-lucky guy, you know, and let's have a drink, that type of thing. The other side was our mother. He says, you know, without a suit and tie, you ain't diddly. You know, you're nothing. You come by, you know, visit today or tomorrow, and she'll say, Alex, when are you going to get a job? You know, she's 75. And, Mom, does it really make any difference?
Well, ladies and gentlemen, we have an incredible guest this evening. You know them as the most famous Van Halen tribute band in the world, the Atomic Punks. And with us tonight, we have Brian Geller, lead singer, who plays the David Lee Roth role. Hey, Brian, how are ya?
Dave and Dave, how are you, my friends?
Excellent, man. Well, we're happy to have you on. Just to start off, we wanted to ask you, how long have you been in the Punks?
I've been in the Punks now 10 years.
Wow.
So, yeah, it's crazy. In fact, we're actually on our longest layoff we've ever had. We've been off now for, 3 months now. We kind of joke around that we might actually have to have our first band rehearsal in the history of the Atomic Punks because we haven't played in so long.
Oh, wow. How often do you guys usually play in a week?
We typically play, anywhere from, 40 to 50 shows a year. So, it pretty much averages out close to once a week.
Wow,
so
okay.
We're obviously a lot busier during summertime doing your 40th and 50th birthday parties, your casinos, your cities in the parks, and, up and around Sunset Boulevard, like the Whiskey a Go-Go and Rainbow and things like that. So
right.
Whoever will pay us, we're coming out.
So you guys normally never get together and just practice and jam?
The last time we got together and jammed was when I auditioned for the band.
Oh, my God.
That was it. Yeah, that was the last time. So
wow.
When I joined the band, they said, this is how we play it. Either you jump on board and play it this way or, we're not going to last too long. So I started out that way. Everybody comes prepared. If we want to do something different, we want to try something, we'll show up to sound check and we'll run it through sound check and we'll either give it a yay or nay to proceed with the evening. So, that's kind of how it goes. But yeah, it's been a long time since we've been in the studio together.
Incredible. And how did you first get introduced to the job?
So I was in a different Van Halen band. In fact, I had been a fan of the Atomic Punks. That was the reason I got into this whole thing. I actually did start singing, until I went and saw the Atomic Punks. I was like, man, this is unreal. These guys are great. I'm a huge Van Halen fan. I love the David Lee Roth era. I know everything there is about it. I think I might be able to pull off the look. I just don't know if I can sing. So I went down that road, started taking vocal lessons, got into my own Van Halen band. We trekked around and did that for a few years, and then I got a call from the Punks that they were looking for a new singer, and that's kind of how it all came about.
And what was your band called?
I was in a few different Van Halen bands. I originally played in Eruption with Al Estrada, who was off with Roth earlier this year.
Right,
He's a
right.
fantastic guitar player. Played with him for a while, and then I partnered with Derek over from the Van Halen band in and around Southern California. So him and I formed Van Halen, and we did that for a few years together. And
Sure.
trekked around, constantly trying to nibble at the ankles of the Atomic Punks. And then I just got the call from the Punks and went out and like, well, let me see what this is like. And I went and played with these guys, and they were just amazing. I'm like, yeah, this is where I need to be.
So
the
now,
rest is history. 10 years later.
Yeah, now the Punks, I would imagine, have to have a certain higher bar to reach when it comes to tribute bands. Would you say that everybody expects way more from you guys?
I think so. I think, they were the pioneers.
Right.
They were one of the first tribute bands to do this type of thing and do it with some spice and style and outside of your typical Elvis and Beatles impersonators. So, when I had heard about them in the 90s and a buddy of mine and I, we went and bought tickets to go see the Punks out in the Valley here in Southern California and went out to the show and bought the tickets. And I'm like, well, what time do these guys go on? I'm like, oh, yeah, they usually go on about 12:30. And I'm like, man, I'm out of here. There's no way I'm waiting around that long. So I never went in that night. And then a few years later, I ended up going to the House of Blues show in Anaheim by Disney and sat there. It was my birthday and we watched the show. And I'm like, you got to be kidding me. I think this is actually up there with some of the classic Van Halen shows I saw. It was literally one of the best performances I'd seen since like the Fair Warning tour I saw as a kid.
Wow.
So at that point, I'm like, wow, this is amazing. I would love to be able to actually do something like that. So for me, replacing Ralph Sands, who's, now in Steel Panther.
Right.
I mean, he's one of the best singers in the world.
Yeah, he's amazing. He's amazing, yeah.
It's a little bit more, for me, it's not a little, it's a lot more pressure. Especially when I first started off the band, not so much now, but it was more living up to Ralph, not Roth.
Right.
So,
Gotcha. That makes sense.
So it was kind of an interesting thing. We still get that. People like, oh man, the Ralph days were a lot better. I'm like, yeah, I'm the first one to tell you that. I quite got into it. Back in the early punk days, it's the history of the band is phenomenal. I love talking to Scott Patterson, who's our drummer, and listening to the tales of how they started and who's been on stage. And it's just a real fantastic history. So I'm just honored to kind of be a part of that legacy and what that band's brought. And, my thought was when I joined the band, it was just to keep it afloat, keep it going, have a good time.
Right.
And, we've done that. We're 10 years in with this current lineup.
Right.
And it's the longest lineup, in 26 years of the Atomic Punks history. So
wow.
I'm really proud of that. I'm proud of the guys in the band. And, we've had the opportunity to play in some different arenas that others have not. And we've had a lot of people jump on stage and play with us. And that's been an honor. So it's just been, I feel real lucky and blessed to have been able to hook up with these guys and really just